Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. I swear this is going to be one of those mornings. I don't know where you are in the world or what time you're watching this, but right now it is 8:32 this morning, and I'm just kind of like, just knocked a bunch of stuff over behind the computer, trying to figure everything out, like even what to talk about today, because yeah, it's just been one of those mornings. Nothing bad. And, you know, sometimes you just got to take it in stride, right? Just like, okay, just take a deep breath and let it go. So take a deep breath. Anyway, wow. So I don't know what to talk about today. And I had an idea of what I wanted to talk about today, but then all of a sudden, an article came across my face this morning while I was laying in bed struggling to get out of bed, and I was like, ooh, this will make a good one, but we'll save that for tomorrow when I can put something better together. So right now, I don't know. What do you think? What should we talk about? So many thoughts running through my mind right now, so many things. I mean, this is literally just a crazy world right now, like legit crazy world. And, you know, I'm in a place where I thought I'd never be, you know, and, yeah, so my mind is just a little blown, you know, just every day is something new. Every day you think you're going to wake up and it's, you know, whatever. And then you wake up and you're just kind of like, God, more stuff? Seriously? Again? It's exhausting. It is tremendously exhausting, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. You know what? Let's do an affirmators card. Yeah. I mean, I do have something, you know, I do have subjects over here that I still haven't talked about that I do want to talk about, but, I feel like my brain is not braining in the right direction today. Not for any other reason except that I'm just kind of upended. Good morning, buddy. Good morning. Should we show the blossom card? Bring us some joy. I haven't even had my coffee yet. I'm starting to become one of those people. It's like, yeah, I can't think before my coffee. But yeah, so I mean, I have a ton of subjects here, different things that we can talk about. You know, lots of things. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subjects that we can talk about, but there's one I'm saving for tomorrow because I really got to do some research on it and go through the article and everything. So, but yeah, so I don't know. I'm a little lost today. I'm a little lost today. So I saw a great quote yesterday that said, you know, kind of like being lost is the same feeling as being found, or something like that. And I really kind of agree with that, because sometimes when we're lost in all the stuff that we're going through, you know, that when we get to the end, it's just that much more magical, you know, whatever particular end. I mean, I truly believe life is just one big life. We're going to do this one. I do really feel like life is just one big journey, but with little side quests, and which are basically little journeys, and each of those little journeys do have an end. And yeah, Muddy, we might need Miss Blossom. We definitely need Miss Blossom. Look at that face. Look at that face. She's like, yeah, no matter how your day is going, let's make it great. Let's make it great. We'll do the soul truth cards today. See if I get anything out of that. Yeah, like I said, I don't know why my brain is not braining today, but even yesterday, like halfway through the day, I was talking to an older sibling, and I was just like, oh my God, it's like I feel like just all this weight just suddenly sat on, like an elephant sat on me. Not on my chest, because, you know, they have that commercial, the COPD commercial. Not like that, but I mean, it's just, all of a sudden it felt like, you know, I had weights strapped to my ankles and my wrists, and just kind of like my head. Everything felt so heavy all of a sudden, and I don't know, and then I kind of felt a little off, a little wonky. I think I told her I felt like a wonky donkey, which I really like that, a wonky donkey. But it was weird too, because it was after we talked about the, having a personal evolution, right? Which is basically personal growth with a much bigger word at the end. But yeah, so it was weird. And I don't know if my whole soul or my body is going through something, like it's just letting go of, decades of tension or what. But, when these things happen, it's not always a cold. Sometimes it's something a little bit more spiritual. And I know people don't like to hear that, but you know what? This is my show. So if you don't want to hear it, just ignore it and we'll move on to the next subject. So, but I think it is really something to look into, because these are things I never used to believe in, right? I mean, I was raised by a Catholic, so, everything is all God and only God. And I think there's so much more out there. I mean, not to disrespect the guy upstairs, but there's a lot of people that people consider to be upstairs. So, or wherever in that garden of their faith and their beliefs. So, and I don't think we should trounce on that. I don't think we should walk all over people's beliefs. So it's one of those keep your eyes on your own paper kind of thing. Okay, anytime now. And this is not an oracle reading. This is the soul truth cards. They're self-awareness cards. So I feel like maybe, oops. What can I burn? I don't know what I'd like to burn, but I don't want to get arrested by the FBI. So, no violence involved. Just, oh, Lord have mercy. This may end up being a little bit metaphysical after a while. Ooh, do I believe I am worthy? What is this one? How does my body want to move today? My body wants to go back to sleep, like legit. These cards were not going back into the deck, so I think it was worth it to, yeah, look at that. I love this. Maya Angelou. You are worthy, you are deserving, you are loved. Start seeing the divine beauty within you and go out and claim the life you have dreamt up. Your crown has been bought and paid for. Put it on your head and wear it. Which is funny because today I thought, well, maybe I'll make the show about, like just getting people to look in the mirror and see who they are and love themselves. And, I think a lot of times we get self-love confused with narcissism. All right. Self-love is nowhere near narcissism. Self-love means you have found this profound love for yourself. And I don't mean, narcissism is when you overly love yourself and you think everybody else should too. All right. And sometimes in a way, it can definitely toe the line of confidence. All right. But case in point, the President of the United States is a narcissist. The rest of us have self-love. Simple as that. And if you like him, I don't know what to tell you, because, it's all there in black and white. A person that, just tweets horrible things, tweets lies, tweets hate, on his own social media. And then, when somebody says one thing about him, he gets mad, right? And then he gets everybody to just pounce on other people. The man thinks he's a king and an emperor and a dictator, and he is one of those. And it isn't a king or an emperor. And yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make this political, but I think that's what's bothering me this morning. That's just weighing heavily on my mind. This is a person who literally sit there and say, it's the Democrats, it's the liberals, it's this, they're snowflakes and blah, blah, blah. But you blink at him the wrong way and all of a sudden he's so sensitive. That's narcissism. That's somebody who can't handle their ego being attacked or always puts shit out there. That's bullying behavior, basically. It really is what it is. It's bullying behavior. Now, a lot of times we find out with bullies that they are the way they are because of some kind of, environment that they're in, and where they are the one being bullied, or they're just, there's something that's hurting them inside and they're taking it out on somebody else. But, and I'm not excusing that behavior, because there's absolutely no use for that behavior. It's also because of the way they're raised and, how to hate people and, how to be just cruel to other people because that's the only thing they know. So, I guess part of the reason I'm talking about that, all of this is because, we do have a lot of situations right now where people are wondering, am I worthy? Do I feel worthy? No matter what is coming down on you, no matter who is saying mean things about you, I know it hurts, And I've been there and I've done that. I was bullied a lot growing up. I was always different. I was a little more introverted. I had a lot of things I was hiding in my life. And not by my family, but, well, one of my cousins in Hawaii, yeah, bullied me all the time. And, but, just gonna leave it at that. And, but I did get bullied a lot in school, and then you come home and everything feels, yay, except for the other stuff, but the secrets that you hide. But, I think it can hurt and it can damage us, and I guess the reason I want to share all that, and, these are things I've finally moved past and things that I've finally, healed, and, they still come up every so often as little tiny triggers or little tiny, that just kind of slap you across the face and you're like, whoa, what the hell, and then you kind of gather your senses and you're like, okay. But I guess I want to share that too, because, I spent a good part of my life not believing I am worthy, not believing that I was enough, not believing that I was deserving or beautiful or smart. And, despite all the things my parents told me, my mom, I don't make ugly babies. My dad, you're smart. My mom, you're smart. You should apply yourself more. Not wrong. I graduated with a B+ average, and, my dad always likes to make the joke, imagine what your grade would have been if you actually opened a book. So I'm not a genius, but, I got through. All right. I got through. Not a big fan of school. So, I like it now. Isn't it funny? Right? It's like when you have the option to go to school, all of a sudden you love it. Like I've taken several college courses, throughout my adult life, and it's just like, this is so great. But it's like, or I've taken other classes online, I've gone through, becoming a Reiki master and a Ho'oponopono, practitioner, and those require schooling. Maybe not what other people consider schooling, because it's not like a college or anything, but they require discipline, and it's just kind of like, where was this when I was in school? But I did find a level of worthiness along the way, and slowly but surely it's built up. So I just want to remind people, do not be afraid of self-love. Self-love is a chosen act. Self-love is you feeling good about yourself, looking in the mirror, and, you don't have to announce to the world, I'm so hot, right? But you can look in the mirror and go, wow, I'm hot. And if you want to announce it to the world, great. Just like, well, I'm having a hot day today. There are some days when it's like, I'll just call sibling. It's like, man, I'm having my, my catwalk day today. I'm having a catwalk day. And I don't put it like that, but that just popped into my head. But it's like, yeah, I'm having a good day today. I like my hair, I like my makeup, whatever it is. It's just one of those days where everything just clicks. And then we take like 1,000 photos of ourselves and change our profile picture. So, oh, what? Not everybody does that? But, I still struggle a little bit with my self-love, but I have to tell you, it is one of the most beautiful things I have ever discovered in my life. And I highly recommend it. I do. And it wasn't easy. It didn't come easy. For some people, it comes easy. For some people, it's just, yeah. But if you're in a situation where you struggle with it, if you're, struggling with something that, maybe a past trauma, or maybe a current trauma, or maybe you're at school and getting bullied, don't listen to those people. Because here's the thing. A lot of us will sit there and say, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I'm ugly, but we look in the mirror and we're all like, wow, I see this person. But then we walk out into the world and it's kind of like, we kind of fall back into this pattern, right? So that person you saw in the mirror is suddenly not that person there anymore. You're just, it's like you're in a bubble and you're putting up all your walls, and, just if someone says something mean to you, just walk away. Just walk away. I admit sometimes I respond. I grew up in a sports world, so, I'm not going to share some of my jabs because, not the time or place, but yeah, regardless of sports world or not, I think it wasn't so much, I don't really think it's that I grew up in a sports world, because I'm actually a very nice fan, very accommodating to the opposing people, but I think where it really kind of came from was just, I found a voice inside of me that just didn't want to be bullied anymore, refused to be bullied anymore, you know. And she's slowly been creeping out, you know. Occasionally you get to a point where it's just kind of like, you know, and then you kind of move on. I remember, I'll share a quick story about that. So, years and years ago, so, you know, a lot of you know I'm a hockey fan, and my team is the Anaheim Ducks. They have been since they came into the league. I was a season seat holder for about 20 years, and then I had a head injury for a while, and I ended up having to give up my tickets. And of course, now they're just so expensive. So, you know, one day I will get back, and because I miss it. I miss live hockey. I miss, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of watching it on TV, but I do it. But I've also had other teams that I liked, you know, and more so the players. But I love the Minnesota Wild. They're like my second team. And that kind of grew out of, you know, like one of my favorite players from my team went there. But then I started cheering for them the year they came in, and been cheering for them ever since. Not against my team, though. Not against my team. But I was also a Patrick Waugh fan. And Patrick Waugh was the goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens. And then there was a big hullabaloo about that. He's like, I'm never playing for you again. And he went to the Colorado Avalanche, who right now are just sitting on top of the world. Which I do like them. They're not bad. You know, I mean, I do have ties now to Colorado, courtesy of older sibling. But years and years ago. So, you know, there are certain arenas where some of the fans, not all of them, okay, because I have a lot of friends who are Kings fans, and there are a lot of nice people there as well. But every so often, in pretty much any arena, it used to not be that way with the Ducks, but in the last couple of years, I'm not too sure. So, you know, it's been a while. But yeah, people just like to give you a hard time. And this one guy, it's like, I just went to go get a pretzel with Sissy Joe, and we're coming back, and I'm wearing my Waugh jersey. She's not wearing anything. She just wanted to go for the hockey game. And all of a sudden, this guy is just like, you know, because Patrick Waugh got himself into trouble by, he had a fight with his wife at the time, and he ripped off a door from, I think, the cupboard or something like that. I don't know. I mean, wow, yikes, talk about anger issues. But, you know, but it was just like, all of a sudden, this guy just starts coming up from behind me and yelling at me. And I'm just like, dude, I'm just walking back to my seat. And I think he might have been drunk or something, but because he was just throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick, just to try to get a rise out of me. And then all of a sudden, and this is the funny part, because this is sometimes when, you know, your retort just writes itself. And I'm wearing a Patrick Waugh jersey, okay, from the Avalanche though. And he says, remember 93? Now in 1993, the Kings lost to the Montreal Canadiens 4-1. In the series. It's usually a best of 7. Okay, you're learning a little bit about hockey now. It's usually the best of 7, and the Kings won 1 game, and the Montreal Canadiens just won 4. So obviously, Kings did not win the cup that year. The Montreal Canadiens did. And I just turned around and I looked at the guy. I'm like, yeah, do you? Because I think a lot of times too, you know, because it's like, really, why would you even bring that up? That's not an insult. You literally just put yourself down. And your team. Just kind of like, what the hell? And it may not be that funny to you, because it's one of those really you had to be there kind of moments. But it was just like, what the fuck is this guy doing? You know? But this is what I'm talking about. It's like people will just throw anything at you, you know, to make it stick. And, you know, I will say, I think the Kings lost that night. I don't think they won the series, but I think they lost that night. And it was like a 1-0 game. It went into like overtime. And in hockey, overtime is a full period in the playoffs. So it was a long game. But I was just thinking about that, you know, the other day when I was like, you know, that this guy wasn't even thinking. I'm not even sure he was a hockey fan that long if he didn't know about 1993. Because even his friends all, dude, that's not an insult. I mean, literally what the friend said, dude, that's not an insult. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, we lost that series. And then the guy just got more belligerent. And he got to the point where Sissy Joe was scared, you know, and I was like, don't worry about it. We'll be okay. All right. And, older sibling was at her seats, with a friend of hers that she shared seats with at the time. So they were there. We were over in our own seats, not too far away. And I said, she may be tiny, but Laura can handle it, and she's like, well, I don't know, but it's like, no. And then downstairs when we were waiting for him, I was wearing, actually, no, I think the Avalanche did win that night, because this guy came over to me, the security guard, and he says, if you want to stay safe, I would probably take off that jersey. And I just looked at him. I'm like, thanks for doing your job. And then I walked away and I'm like, no, and I mean, I can get a little, don't ever tell me to take my jersey off. I'm very proud of the jerseys I wear. I might be probably not always safe, but I think the point I'm trying to make is that in life, people are going to come at you like that guy tried to come at me. And they're going to try to throw everything at the wall to see what sticks, to see what gets a rise out of you. And the one thing I found over the course of my years is that the less you fight back and the more you hit them with knowledge, they're either going to get more mad and walk away, or they're just going to get more mad and you have to walk away. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to walk away, kind of like just ignore them, like you don't hear them. Okay, but the reason I wanted to share that particular story is because this is somebody who didn't know me, just saw the jersey, and basically started having a fight with the jersey. Okay, because he was mad for some reason, or he was just thinking that, wow, this is what sports fans do. That is not how sports fans should react. Okay, in fact, I think that there's a show in there. I think there is a show in there about etiquette in sporting venues. Yeah, we're going to do something about that. We're going to do one of those. All right. I'm going to write that down right now so I don't forget. But the reason I'm talking about that is because I think it's important for us to know that, there's always going to be somebody out there who's going to try to rip you apart, who's going to try to tear you down. And, whether they know you or not. If they know you, it's even worse. And I think you need to do some evaluating on your worthiness, I know that this was supposed to be What Can I Burn? But we will get to that because I think, yeah, this is good. This is going to be this is kind of the next chapter on that. So, when it comes to bullying and stuff like that, I think, sometimes it's just best to walk. Like I said, sometimes it's just best to walk away. I'm sorry, my brain cells are still repopulating in here after my cold. And I think it rattled my brain a little bit by coughing so much. So, because there was a couple times I coughed so hard I got dizzy. And the one thing I've learned in my life is that the more concussions you get, the easier it is to rattle your brain. So that could be part of my problem too. But I've had several big ones. But yeah. Case in point, that guy I was just talking about, right? Sorry. He was mad. He was mad because he couldn't get under my skin, which was one of the very rare times in my younger years of being a hockey fan and going to this particular arena that I can say that I'm shocked that I didn't react stronger. When he said what he said, I just turned around and I just couldn't help laughing, because even Sissy Joe, who I had taught hockey to, was like, wait, didn't Patrick Wall win that? I'm like, yes. And that's why I turned around as she was saying that, and I'm like, I remember it. Do you? And for all intents and purposes, in true honesty, I did not remember it. Okay. But as a fan, I get to know everything I can about where my favorite players have been. And when you don't like a team that literally sits right up the freeway from you learn everything about them too. So, I do vaguely remember it. I do remember the Canadians winning that because, I liked hockey, but in San Diego, it was not that easy to get it. And I didn't move up into a hockey area until about 3 years later. So it was just kind of like you get everything piecemeal. So, they did show the Kings games, and I think that's probably how I knew what had happened, because really that was for the longest time in Southern California, it was just the Los Angeles Kings. And they're a very good team. You know, one of my favorite players in the hockey league just retired the other day. And I felt bad for them because ironically, they lost, you know, the series to the Avalanche. but, so I wish him the best too. But, yeah, cause, you know, once you get past your own self, you know, you start realizing that, you know, there are just those kind of people in this world. And there are those people who are just going to try to take you down because they're angry or for whatever other reason. And you can do one of two things. You can ignore them, which I highly suggest. But at the same time, they don't always make that easy for you. So, you know, you just keep your cool, keep your calm. All right. And whatever you do when they're sitting there, because eventually if you keep your calm, they're going to start digging in to below the belt. And they're going to start throwing shit at you that isn't true. Well, you're ugly and you're this and you're that. You know, I mean, I believe as I was walking away, the guy was just like, well, fuck you, bitch. And it's just like, whatever. I mean, and Sissy Joe was so scared. I think that's one of the reasons why that I didn't overreact that time. Because it's just kind of like, I need to get her back to her seat. You know, and I admit I was a little nervous because these guys were bigger than us. And I don't mean like, you know, like they were stocky, but also they were just really tall. And it's kind of like, you know, like we were not near our seats. So we had to venture over to the Wetzel's Pretzels. So anyways, I'm sorry. I know I'm all over the place this morning, but I don't want, in, you know, bringing it back to normal life and not hockey. My goal a lot of times in this show is to try to not just, you know, raise people up, but to give you tools that will help you move through moments like that. That will help you move through, you know, the angry people, that will help you move through all this other stuff, you know, that people want to throw at you, that, you know, their anger, their pain, their sadness, and they don't know how to deal with it. So they're going to whap it onto you. And I don't think that was the case in that time. I think the guy was just a dick. Okay, period. You know, and I think he got his lesson that night, and hopefully, you know, he didn't do that to other people later down the road. But I don't want what other people, you know, say to you or try to hurt you with to affect your worthiness. Sorry, something weird happening on my knee. I don't want that to affect your worthiness. I don't want it to make you feel like you don't belong. Because when we put our worth in someone else's hands, then, you know, we're basically giving away everything about us. Your worth should be in your hands only. Self-love is a very beautiful thing when you're willing and able to embrace it. And when I say willing, I mean you have to be able to put in the work if you are struggling with your worthiness, if you are struggling with how you see yourself in the mirror, who you see in the mirror. You know, and that can be difficult. That can be very difficult. You know, and in the advent of social media, we've seen it before, right? Where, you know, you can make a comment about one thing and you always got that one person that's just got to be a troll, right? And I think that is, I think that's mean to trolls because, you know, I've seen the Troll movie and they're cute. So, you know, online trolls, we'll make them online trolls. But yeah, you know, they're just, but there's always that person. And then, you know, you just have to decide whether or not, you know, you're going to engage, which I don't advise. A lot of times they're just going to come at you with everything and until you do respond. Now, just so you know, in a lot of cases, especially on Twitter, you can mute the conversation and you will never see it again. All right. So, you know, you can say what you want to say and walk off. And I don't mean be mean. Okay. You don't need to be mean. I mean, bullying can go two ways, you know, or being mean can go two ways. But the more we find our worthiness and our self-love, the more we seem to handle ourselves with a little bit of more care. And we watch our mouths, and, you know, my mouth, you know, I'm not innocent in a lot of things. You know, there was a time when I could just get really charged up about something and then just argue. And, you know, but I got to the point now where it's like, you know, we need to agree to disagree. Because I don't want to fight with people over something that we're never going to agree on. There's no point. There's no point. Because it's just, when you're willing to walk away and they're not, that says something more about them than it does about you. That means they have something going on that they need to fix, that they need to heal, that they need to cure inside of their heart and their mind. You don't need to be a party to that. Because a lot of times it can start to affect our worthiness. I talked about an issue I went through, which I'm not going to reiterate here, but, it caused a separation. And well, I guess I just have to, because I already put it out there, right? I lost a friend over politics. And, no matter how much I said we got to agree to disagree, or I don't want to talk about this anymore because, our friendship is more important to me than this, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. And it was just kind of like, no matter how many facts, no matter how many things and articles you send to people, sometimes they are just going to be so lost in whatever it is that they're hurting over that you can't pull them out. We can't save everybody. And I'm not saying this person needed to be saved. Absolutely not. But I told older sibling because I grieved that friendship. That was a friendship I had for over 20 years. And it was just kind of like, wow, just wow. We started with, let's just agree to disagree and I don't want to talk about this anymore, to them just completely unfriending me across the board, and not answering texts or anything. So it's just kind of like, okay, I see you and I understand you. And if that's the way you need it to be, then that's fine. But it was something I grieved. It was something that hurt me and something I was hurting over, because it's like, you start second guessing everything. But in terms of, I know a lot of people don't like this phrase, but it really is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. And it did affect my worthiness for a while. And it just, after it blew my mind and after it hurt me, I was just kind of like, wow. And then eventually I healed and I moved on. And I thought, okay, that's fine. That's fine. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can hold on to it, but I also don't want it to ruin my worthiness. This person's not a bad person. She's not a bad person. I'm not a bad person. It's just, a bad thing happened between us, and, what are you going to do? But don't let things like that affect your worthiness. There are going to be people that are going to walk out of your life, and, it's just something we have to figure out how to heal from. All right. So let's get to the next card. So, here's your mantra for that. I am worthy of it all. And you are worthy of it all. Write down your dreams. Write down your goals. Don't let people stand in your way. Okay. Don't let people, tell you, well, are you sure that's the path you want to go down? Or I don't think that's the right thing for you, or this, that, or the other. There's always going to be a lot of people like that will sit there and go, well, I don't think that's right for you. Well, it's not your life. So, if I mess up and I fall flat on my face, fine. You get to be right. But what if I don't? All right. Trust yourself and believe in yourself. That's what worthiness is all about. It's that pure self-love that you can give yourself that says, you know what? I am the king or queen of my world. And I am the person that makes the choices in my life. And just, work through that and work on it. So this one is, what can I burn? I thought it was going to be a little bit different, but I like this one because this one literally goes with this one. Burn it all. The ugly lies, the pain, the shame, the criticism, the images that run through your head, the reminders of what you did wrong, and the proof that you are not enough. Burn, baby, burn. Your soul is calling. It's time for a rebirth. You are like the phoenix rising from the ashes, no longer attached to the past. You are free. Your wings are ready. Use them. Okay? Burn, baby, burn. Right? You know that Disco Inferno. I know. Oh, but yeah, I like this because this is exactly what it's talking about. Your worthiness has been developed by things that have gone on throughout your life. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe you didn't feel enough. Maybe whatever your maybes are, whatever your truth is, whatever affected your worthiness, it's all lies. It's all lies. Maybe not lies from you. Maybe it's lies people told you to hold you down, to hold you back. Listen to your own self. Trust your spidey instincts, all right? That's your intuition somewhere in here. Your gut intuition, right? It's your gut intuition. It's your, again, it's your spidey instincts. It's your body telling you, you know what? This is what you need to do. This is how you need to push forward. And so today's soul action for this is make the choice that you will no longer let the past define you. Pick up your pen. What will your next chapter look like? What will your next chapter look like? I feel like I've been sitting in limbo for a year. I mean, I've had a lot of personal growth and evolution. I've evolved a lot in this last year. And I didn't really realize it till the other day. And, just the way you react to different things or the things you start to talk about, and even some of the subjects that we do go over again on this show. I mean, I've covered subjects that I've covered a million times. And a lot of times I think, it's just me still healing it in my body and in my mind. But I love this because this, this is so true. I'm going to read it again. Okay. Burn it all. The ugly lie. Excuse me. Look at that. Something's trying to keep it from coming out. Give me a moment. Please. Thank you. Here we go. Burn it all. The ugly lies, the pain, the shame, the criticism, the images that run through your head, the reminders of what you did wrong, and the proof that you are not enough. Burn, baby, burn. Your soul is calling. It's time for a rebirth. You are like a phoenix rising from the ashes, no longer attached to the past. You are free. Your wings are ready. Use them. Now, it says here the images that run through your mind, through your head, the reminders of what you did wrong and the proof that you are not enough. Those are the lies. Those are the ugly lies. If you have done things in your past that you were not proud of, let it go. If you made amends for it, let it go. If you need to make amends for it, do it. If it's something that bothers you. I had something that bothered me for 20 years. I finally got to meet up with a friend who lives on the East Coast now. And we sat down and had coffee. And I said, look, I don't know if this makes a difference to you or not. And I said, but this has bothered me for all these years. And I am very sorry. And she's all, I let go of that a long time ago. And she hugged me. And she's all, but I appreciate it. Because she's all, I understand where you're coming from. And and I thanked her for that. And, because, we're humans. We're going to misstep from time to time. We're going to make mistakes. Okay. But that doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you wrong. That's not proof that you are not worthy. All it is you being human and learning how to redirect in the right direction. So you get to decide from here on out what your worthiness is worth to you. Again, self-love is not narcissism. Narcissism is a trait. It's a mental illness trait, really. And I hate using the term mental illness, but I think that point drives it home. I prefer mental health. In fact, when I refer to my own mental health, I say I have a dinged up mental health. And I do. It's like having a dent on your brain, but not a physical one, just a mental one. But I mean, but it does fall under the mental health umbrella. All right. Just like people who can't see past themselves, who everything everybody else does is wrong. They're always right. No matter what they say goes, and it's a lot of times it just aligns with poor behavior and not being, and that behavior not being checked. So, sorry, this is part of the problem I had when I started the show this morning. Just kept going, but, but burn those images in your head of you not being worthy to the ground. Not literally, just figuratively. Okay. Burn it to the ground. If any of you are interested, look up Carl Jung, Carljung. He was a student and then a colleague of Freud. Freud did mentor him because, Freud is the father of psychotherapy. And, but Carl Jung went into a different, he kind of went into a metaphysical path of sorts. And I know when you hear metaphysical, you're like, oh God, there she goes again. But no, but seriously, I started reading about him by accident. And then I found other people, and they actually call people who are fans of Carl Jung Jungians. And I don't know a lot about him. I am learning a lot about him as I go, but there's a lot of YouTube videos on there. And a lot of times when you feel like you're out of place or out of sorts, or maybe you feel distant from your own life, it could help explain it. And I don't want you to get tangled up in the term metaphysical. Okay. I just say that because he took a different approach to, to therapy. He really felt that, in order to heal yourself, that you have to go inward, that you have to kind of find those demons that are in you and figure out how to heal them and exorcise them from your life. Whereas Freud was a little bit more, by the book. And I mean, to Freud's credit, he kind of put this out there and people kind of started following this path of things, but they were also able to find I mean, there was a lot of therapists that, were mentored by Freud that kind of just found their own way. But Carl Jung was the one that really that hit me between the eyes, where it's like, oh my God, I finally feel seen. In fact, he is the father of shadow work. So that's why I brought up the metaphysical aspect, because before I knew who Carl Jung was, I had been doing a lot of shadow work, and I really thought it was a very metaphysical thing. And then I decided to do a show on it. And when I Googled it, I was like, oh, it's a therapy thing. So yeah, it was an eye opener. But shadow work is something that it can get a little dicey, which is why I think if you have a lot of trauma in your life, that if you're going to work on shadow work, I highly suggest having either, like I said, a very strong support group or therapy, or both, because it can bring you to some dark places that you forgot were there, or that archetypes, of course, because he wrote about archetypes. But Sammy says the Myers-Briggs archetypes are based on Jung as well. See, learn something new every day. I never even put that together, because apparently he had a lot of papers that, he had a lot of stuff, kind of like Tesla, right? That people just confiscated. But he had a lot of things that, that weren't published and weren't, that he was working on when he died. And one of them was I don't know if he was working on, or if he had mentioned archetypes before, but apparently there was a manuscript or something. And I don't know, I got to read up on this, because, I kind of read things, and then what sticks and what doesn't. But he is kind of I'll just say it, the father of archetypes, like kind of putting them out there so people can understand them. So, Carl Jung did a lot in his life. And what's interesting is because he lived in the 20th century, in the 60s, there are a few videos of interviews with him. So, it's one of these people that, you can actually hear them, and you can, soak in their person and their being and who they are. So, and I'm not trying to steer you away from anybody else. Carl Jung is just my personal favorite. And, having been through enough therapy, enough in my adult life, he's like my therapy idol. So it's so dumb. But anyways, thank you for that, Muddy. I had no idea, but thank you for that. And they do have Myers-Briggs tests, online. Some of them you have to pay for, some of them are free. You just kind of got to find them, and it will tell you what your archetype is. I actually need to retake it, because I've changed over the last couple of years since I last took the test. And, I came to the end of my healing journey, and, I think, I'm just speaking out of turn here, because I don't know what Carl Jung would think, but I think that I really tend to believe that he would agree that when you do the shadow work, when you go in there, if you have the trauma, that you probably could come out the other end as a different archetype, and that doesn't mean that everybody's is going to change. Some people just know who they are, and that's their archetype. But yeah, so anyways, I know this was a bit disjointed today, and I apologize for that. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Muddy, thank you for coming on. I let older sibling sleep today. She was texting me at like 3 in the morning. I saw those when I woke up, and I was just like, oh, this girl did not sleep again. She threw, oh, and also, if you're still on, anybody who's still on by now, could you please throw some good juju? How, your prayers, your manifestations, whichever you want to call it, to older siblings. She threw out her back yesterday. So, anyways. Oh, so Sammy says, I can't find a free one anymore, but I learned more about myself and felt more seen when I learned I was an INFJ. So many things made sense when I read up on my type. What is an INFJ? Oh, thank you, Muddy. Now I'm curious. I think I was similar to an INFJ. I can't remember. I think, I can't remember. I think my first letter has changed. I'm not sure I'm introverted anymore. And I don't think that's totally what it means, but it is partially. So, oh, here you go. INFJ. The advocate. Oh, I totally agree with this. Sorry, Muddy. I'm sharing this with everybody. Is a rare, introspective, empathetic, and idealistic personality type focused on helping others and pursuing meaningful goals. It stands for introversion, intuition, feeling, and judging. Individuals with this personality type are introspective and energized by solitude, preferring deep, meaningful connections over large circles. That's what they consider introversion. I just call that smart. You don't always need big circles. They focus on future possibilities and abstract concepts rather than concrete details. INFJs make decisions based on personal values and emotional considerations rather than personal logic. I love that. And I can totally see that. I totally see you as an INFJ. I love that. Okay, yeah, they are rarely free anymore. Sometimes you can pay like $1, I think, at the end, and then you got to cancel something. So, but yeah, I really want to do mine over again because I'm curious where I'm at. I can't remember what I actually think I was an INFJ. It's just ringing a bell in my head because I think you and I talked about this before when I did it, but I can't really remember because I'm not so sure that, if you would have seen me on the ship, guys, there was like this, we walked back to the room after the first day because I was like, hey, how's it going? Or talking to people in the elevator. I looked at older sibling. I'm like, I think someone's possessing me right now because I've never talked to this many people that I don't know in my life. Or maybe it's just because you're on a ship, right? And you're going to be around these people, like a couple thousand of your closest friends for 2 weeks. But I don't know, because I go through moods, right? Sometimes I want to talk to people. Other times it's just like, back off. BTFO, back the fuck off. Like, don't talk to me, don't look at me, don't smile at me, don't nothing at me. And other times it's like, how come everyone's ignoring me? I know. Mental case. But anyways, I have moods. What can I say? Oh, okay. Okay, so see, I've been misunderstanding introverted for a long time. I think, because I think when we're kids, right? You're so introverted. And I guess I never really thought about it that way. But Sammy says, she can do that too. Be very friendly and outgoing, especially with one of the jobs that I know she had when we first met. She had to be. But being introverted doesn't mean shy, just that you need a lot of alone time. I need a lot of alone time. I am. But you know what? I always thought maybe that was because I'm an only child. And, I know I say older sibling and baby sibling, but baby sibling's my cousin and older sibling is my best friend for the last 27 years. Wow. Anyways, but she's like my sister. She's kind of like a pseudo mom to me as well. I told her that. I said, when there's times when I just feel like I need to call my mom, I call you now because, I said, I hope you don't mind that because I realized this last week that I kind of put her in a pseudo mom position since I lost my own mom. But I'm used to having a lot of my own time, and I enjoy it. I'm not saying it, that's how I want to live the rest of my life. No, I don't. I like being around people, but I like being around people who do respect that when I go to my room to write or I'm sitting alone doing whatever project I'm working on, that I'm fine. I just put on my music and I'm good to go. I don't need outside interference. Sorry, my nose and my throat, postnasal drip. But anyways, But yeah, okay, well, good. I'm glad we know that now. So introverted doesn't necessarily mean shy, you know. And I do know that there are some extreme introverts, the people who just don't want to go outside, who just don't want to talk to people. So, you know, I think we've taken a term and, you know, just kind of, it feels now like introverts, or the word introvert has been misrepresented in a small way. But I also see it. I can see it from both sides. But anyways, so there you go. Because Muddy is fun. Muddy pretty much put together our entire core group of friends that we have, that we know, just 5 of us. I think it's 5 of us. Maybe 6 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 5 of us. You know, we even have our own tiny little Facebook group. So, which I think we forget about sometimes, but you know, but we're all still there. You know, somebody posts, it's like, oh yeah, hey, how's it going? But, all right. So anyways, goodbye. I'm in a mood. It's going to be a good day. I'm in a mood. I'm not sure what mood I'm in, but I'm in a mood. But yes, see you later. Have a great day. Au revoir. Adios. Auf Wiedersehen. All those things. Sayonara. Anyways, sorry. Stretching my international legs there. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Tomorrow we're going to talk about ageism. That's right. That's your preview. Tomorrow we're going to talk about ageism. But Muddy, thank you. Thank you for all your input. You know, I was starting to wonder, I'm like, crap, am I being that boring? Because usually we talk back and forth, but you know, but thank you. Thank you for listening and for just kind of going along with me there. And for all of you who made it to the end here, congratulations, because I'm pretty sure that was a rough road, a lot of potholes in that road, in that verbal, whatever this was for the last 53 minutes. So anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public under Shelly Marie Lucas. Excuse me, I don't even know my own name. Wednesdays are usually self-care Wednesdays, but I think ageism is the perfect self-care subject. All right. So have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. And thank you again, Muddy.